Hi, this is Bill Hayhurst once again from Telquest Tech Support. In this lesson, we're going to be going over some testing of SIP trunk methods for the IP office. We'll be using the monitor program and the system status tools that come as part of the IP office suite. Okay, in order to open up the system status tool, we go down to the Start button on the computer, click on that, go to Programs or All Programs. You'll look through your extensive list of programs until you find one that says IP Office. You put your mouse over that, you go across and down, and you will see the system status. Click on that. Once the system status program opens, you need to make sure you put the correct IP address up here for the KSU, the username as administrator, and the password for the IP Office Essential Standard Edition. Cut and paste it, and click Login. And here we have the system status. Alright, now that we have the system status open, we can take a look around and see what we can work with. First, we can go up in the upper left-hand corner and click on that little plus symbol by the word trunks right here. If you remember, our SIP trunk was line 17. We click on that. That will give us information. We can see it's a SIP trunk summary right here. What we can also do over here is take a look where this tab where it says registration and click on that. And here we can see that our SIP trunk is registered. This is the first indication you have that it's actually working. And as I mentioned earlier, you could not determine this within the manager program itself. You would have to have gone to the IP Office System Status program to make this determination. Now, while you're in the system status, you can take a look around and familiarize yourself with some of the aspects of it. For instance, we can see here's the telephone number of our SIP trunk. We could click on alarms to see if there were any alarm conditions on it. You can click on utilization summary. It'll show you how many incoming, outgoing, and abandoned calls there may have been. A current system status check. You can also click over here on status. It will tell you particulars about the SIP trunk itself. We can see that's the domain name, the IP address, that will be of call-centric, line number 17, number of administered channels, we gave it 1 to make it simple, number of channels in use is 0, the administration or the administered compression, we're saying that we're using G711MU, also known as G711, a codec or a vocoder. Silent suppression is turned off. We have 5 SIP trunk channel licenses. We have 0 channels in use, and we have SIP device features, none on there. And we can see that the current state is idle. All right, now I'm going to make a phone call, and we can see what shows up on the screen. Okay, we can see, there it is, the call's connected, the period of time that the call's engaged, the remote location of the SIP trunk, the type of codec we're using. The connection type is VCM, voice compression module. This is the extension I made the call from. It's an outgoing call. This is the round trip delay in milliseconds. Any received jitter will show up here. These are very helpful pieces of information for troubleshooting. Received packet loss fraction, 0, always sounds good. Transmit jitter and transmit packet loss fraction. These are good tools to indicate if you're having a problem. They're also very good tools to help you resolve a problem. Alright, I'm going to make the same telephone call once again, although this time I'm going to click down here in the bottom on the Trace All button. That's going to show us a representation of the SIP messages that are used, which are sent back and forth between the KSU and the SIP service provider. You can get a little bit of a taste to see what they look like. So I'll click the Trace All, and I'm going to go ahead and make that same phone call again. We can see the messages setting up. The call has been established, and I'm going to hang up. We'll get that there. And now we're going to take a moment to take a look at it more closely. You can see here in the beginning that we have the invite message, which is an invitation from the KSU to the SIP service provider. The response coming back from them, the acknowledgement, the invite again, the response again, and we go back and forth with these. A very generalized SIP messaging. We'll see more detail in the monitor program. Keep in mind that this lesson about the IP Office system status is not a great in-depth detailed explanation of SIP messaging and VoIP technology. It's mainly intended to give you some exposure to it. Oftentimes, knowing that this service here is available, the trace all, the SIP messaging, will help you troubleshoot troubles with the vendor. Once again, as always, I encourage you to get your own SIP trunk service, set up the IP Office system status tool, testing tool that is, make and receive some telephone calls, look at the messaging that's in there, and get a better understanding of it. Now we're going to move on to the monitor tool. The System Monitor tool is located in the same general area as the IP Office System Status tool is. Simply go to this area where you find Monitor and then click on it. When the Monitor tool comes up, you need to click over here first on this icon and log on to the system. Obviously, you'll put in the correct IP address for the KSU and you'll put in the password. The default password is the word administrator with a capital A. Once you have that, click OK. Once you've logged on to the system monitor, you can go up here in the upper left-hand corner and click where it says Filters. Then click on Trace Options. First, we're going to click on the Clear All button over here to clear out any previous settings. Then we're going to click on the Yes button to tell it that we're sure. Then select the SIP tab. The events set SIP high, and for this portion we're simply going to look at registration, so we're going to click SIP registration and SIP receive and SIP registration transmit. We'll click OK, click Yes, and we're going to watch. Shortly we're going to see some information come up on the screen. Alright, what you've seen there, and I'm going to pause the screen by clicking this pause button. You can see that our SIP trunk is registering with CallCentric, and it got a 200 OK message back, meaning that it worked OK. This lesson does not go into great detail to explain the meaning of the SIP messages. Mainly, if you understand the beginning headers, that's a start. A full course on SIP message understanding is available if you speak to your Telquest salesperson. In this section, I'd like you to see what an actual SIP call looks like from the monitor standpoint. This will be the exchange of messages, the full-scale exchange messages between the SIP service provider and your KSU. Now, you'll need to make personal study into SIP messaging to understand these fully, but at least here you'll be exposed to it. So the first thing we're going to do is tell the monitor that we're not going to monitor SIP registrations anymore. That would just put extra information on the screen that would tend to confuse us. We're going to select SIP call receive and SIP call transmit. We click OK over here. We click OK again. And then I'm going to make the phone call right now. There's the call going through. And I'm going to hang up. So if we pause this, scroll to the top of the screen, we can see what we call the invite message. All right? That's always what begins a SIP call. And the TX means it was transmitted from the KSU, and the 17, that's right, it was transmitted on line 17. Over here, we have a receive on 17 from our service provider. They're asking for authentication. They want us to prove who we are. We acknowledge that authentication, telling them our password, which is encrypted. Then we send again, here's the TX 17. We're sending the invite message all over again. That's who we are, what services we have available, and who we're trying to reach. The service provider responds that they're trying. They're trying again, which often means that it's ringing. Here we can see session progress. The call has been answered. It's underway. There's a confirmation that we're receiving from them. There's more acknowledgement in here. And here, when I hung up, there's the buy message. TX, SIP call transmit from trunk 17 to the provider. bye, B-Y-E. I hung up the call. They respond back 200 OK, and everything's reset. Now, there is quite a bit more to this than what you see here, understanding what these other values in here mean. But once again, by means of your personal effort, and we do have SIP school training available through your Telquest salesperson. All right, I hope you learned something out of that. At least you're exposed to it. You see what SIP messaging looks like. By setting up your own KSU with your own SIP trunk and running the monitor tool, you can get these results as well. Familiarize yourself with it, perhaps even subscribe to the SIP school training that Telquest has available to you. SIP trunks are really the wave of the future. Traditional analog phone lines will be here to a certain point, but as technology moves forward, more and more people will be using SIP trunks, and you really want to be ready for that. Your customer will be asking about these services, so it's a good sign that you're preparing in advance by studying this technology. Well, once again, it's Bill Hayhurst for Telquest Tech Support. Thank you for watching this video.